Don't forget to follow us on social media for beautiful food and inspiration.
See the same people every other day, but we never say hey, cause we're never looking the way, or my face was in my notebook. We passed each other, didn't look. But these are the people of the towns, of the towns, the towns, of the towns. And large cities are just a bunch of big small towns, big small towns, overlapping side by side, big small towns. I see new people every day. Everyone's on their way, doing the things that fill their day. And I'm going places too, doing the things that I do with my time. We are the people of the towns, of the towns, the towns, of the towns. And large cities are just a bunch of big small towns, big small towns, diagonal, top to bottom, big small towns. Be nice to the people of the towns. Once in a while look around, cause what's going around's coming around. What came around's coming around. What's going around's coming around. Big, 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 small towns. Word gets around in the big small towns. Big, 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 small towns. Word gets around in the big small towns. Big, 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 small towns. Word gets around in the big small towns.
Hey everybody, welcome to Downballot. This is the flagship podcast tonight of demon-possessed wireless DMX lighting systems. You can support this project at echoplexmedia.com. Just click the support tab. This project does rely on financial support from listeners and viewers like you, or if you can con your friends into giving me money, that's fine too. I'm producer Dave. You can find me on Grindr.
Good to see you, Producer Dave, as always. This is the Councilman, and you can find me in the gutter.
Cool. Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm trying to simplify my introductions these days. I want to get right to it. You know what I'm saying? Spend as much time as we can.
Right to the point, right to the crazy. Real quick,
exactly.
everybody, if you're listening to the podcast and you like the local coverage here on Downballot, early mornings, Monday and Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific, the Media Wench is doing all Shasta news all the time. She was live for almost 8 hours today, covering the entire Board of Supervisors meeting up there while it unfolded.
Yes, and you can get merch on the Echoplex Media website, specifically for Shasta County. I really appreciate the merch you've created, Producer Dave.
The LOL is pretty funny.
The LOL is it's perfection. It's perfection in merch. So I encourage you all to get it.
We saw somebody at one of those meetings get up with that shirt. It was the fly is fucking like purple too, right? And a tinfoil hat on. And they just got up from the front row. And it wasn't anybody it wasn't like Nathan or Lisa or anybody that has come on before.
Just unprompted support.
They're clearly somebody that follows me on Twitter. That could be the only way they would have found it, right?
Sure. I imagine so. We're just scouring the Twitch, nether regions and coming across this wonderful little network here. I think
live from the nether regions of Twitch.
Well, how it's pretty searchable, right? Like you can search by topics and by I'm sure and by other things. So perhaps someone is just very curious about the goings on in Shasta County, and they live there obviously, and they saw that really this is the only network I know that covers the underbelly of Shasta County politics to the extent that you do, Producer Dave, and in the media ones especially, and all the goings on in Jefferson, the state of Jefferson. So perhaps they're longing for someone to expose all that they've been seeing, and they've finally found us, and it's great to see. Hopefully that will spread, and they can tell their friends, and they can tell friends, and suddenly you'll see nothing but tinfoil hats in the audience at supervisors meetings, and we can shut out the actual tinfoil hats.
That's hopeful. That works for my checking account. That's for sure.
You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to make it, Producer Dave, so that you don't have to work, and you can just work on this.
I that's already I don't work.
Oh, that's what you do. Oh, great. Well, then I'm just here to make you rich.
We'll settle right now for a lower middle class.
There you go. Able to afford the rent in some small East Bay city.
Large landmass, small population. Anyway, what do we got for Bay Area news? What do we got for leading off this week?
Well, speaking of the Bay Area and speaking of small landmass, large population, or actually small landmass, small population, when you think about it, San Francisco, SF, the city we all love to bag on down here. They don't even know that we exist. So down here in the South Bay, it's like San Jose. Where is that exactly? But San Francisco, we certainly know. It's known nationally as a bastion of liberal, progressive politics, right? Everyone Republicans like to use San Francisco as the proverbial punching bag every time election season comes around. So anyone with ties to San Francisco, that Gavin Newsom, that San Francisco Gavin Newsom, that San Francisco Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi from San Francisco, we're the weirdos. And I think it's fine with me. San Francisco is certainly made out to be the nation of weirdos. Anyway, that's been the identity of San Francisco for a long time in politics. Well, recent elections may have started to see a little change in that regard, maybe a push back, maybe it's the one step back to two steps forward. But some of our local news entities we're going to see a couple hits on this show today about this, but this is the first, and they're going to explore what happened in the primary last week, despite the fact that it was a very conservative electorate and small electorate, and what that might mean about politics in San Francisco and how it might be changing.
The vote count also still going on in San Francisco, but the results so far are sparking a debate about the city's identity. Some say from progressive to more conservative. Others say it's only a sign that voters want a city that's safer. NBC Bay Area's Sergio Quintana in San Francisco with a closer look at the results and this debate.
Just after the polls closed last night, Mayor London Breed waded into a packed victory party put together by a coalition of groups that backed her ballot measures and a whole slate of candidates on the local Democratic Party committee. She was clearly happy about the direction of those early election results.
I'm going to officially call the results of ENF as in our favor.
And now, the day after, she says the message from the voters is both clear and simple.
We want results. We don't want to hear excuses. We don't want to wait another year until another election to see progress. We want it now, and that's what those ballot measures signify.
Mayor Breed co-sponsored Prop A for affordable housing and championed 3 other ballot measures focused on 3 of the city's biggest issues: housing, crime, and homelessness. Prop C, which would incentivize businesses to convert downtown commercial commercial space to residential, Prop E, which aims to reform police oversight and expands police access to surveillance cameras and drones, and Prop F, which requires people getting welfare cash payments to be screened for drug use and to enroll in treatment. All of them look poised to pass. And if last night was good for Mayor Breed, it was great for groups like Grow SF and Together SF. Would you say that last night was beyond your expectations?
100% beyond my expectations.
They opposed one ballot issue which is failing and backed every measure that's currently on track to pass. They also hoped to place at least 10 people on the city's Central Democratic Committee, and instead will likely win about 20 seats and control of the committee. Local elections in San Francisco are not party affiliated, but it's very well known that San Francisco is a Democratic Party stronghold. So with moderates in the party doing very well last night, it's the progressive wing that took a wallop.
The tech billionaires and millionaires that are the funders behind Prop E and Prop F were able to mislead voters.
Angela Chan is with the coalition of groups that oppose Props E and F. She says they're disappointed by last night's election results, but hope this is just a temporary swing and more progressive policies will return in future election cycles. In San Francisco, Sergio Quintana, NBC, Bay Area News.
Ooh, giving the cops more power. What could go wrong?
I have no idea, especially in a lovely city like San Francisco where everything's just flowers and roses. Any thoughts on this, producer Dave, on the apparent swing in electoral politics in San Francisco based on one election? I
mean, like you said before this is a primary election, which is going to have like a lower turnout and generally less young people, like an older voter set and stuff. So, we'll see. I don't know. I don't even know that like these represent, like, for example, the incentivizing property owners to convert business to housing. That's not really progressive or kind of shit-libby, right? It's going to be like the entire coalition of the people to the left are going to tend to support that. Everybody from like Hillary Clinton to like Seize the Means of Production or whatever is going to support that, something like that. So that's not really a thing. I just don't like the other two, the mandatory drug testing for services provided by the city. I think that's pretty bad because those are the people who are living with drug addiction, probably the ones who need the services the most. And then the giving the cops like apparently just more drones is what I take from it.
Surveillance.
This isn't Texas. We don't have any good old boys to shoot them down. So like,
yeah, no, I think it's a very good read. The Prop C with the making it easier to convert commercial to residential. It's a soup du jour kind of an issue right now, or a solution right now. It's part of the toolkit, as it were, to combating homelessness and housing shortages. So that's pretty much a bread and butter issue for, like you said, a wide swath of voters from the moderates to the left, right? And that actually helped Mayor Breed win sort of a more broader coalition around the measures that you and I are a little more not so cool with, or a little sus of E and F. It helped to win a broader coalition because it brought in all those housing advocates and all those folks from the probably more progressive wing who the ACLU kind of progressive wing who are not going to be very excited about E or F, right? But they will support the package because it gets them C, right? So that's the dirty side of politics. It's the, whatever you want to call it, the strange bedfellows of politics. But it's what happens. Interesting to note that there's been a confab today, or a little bit of conflagration on Twitter and social media about some comments that Mayor Mahan, Mayor Ed 209 in San Jose, made about Measure F, about the drug screening, and agreeing with it in principle, and recently actually having a poll out in the field. It looks like it was from Mayor Mahan, but really pushing that idea. So it's certainly a concept that they're exploring here in the South Bay. So this is not the last we've heard of it. But again, like you said, and like I pointed out, a turnout was abysmal in this election. It's probably going to it'll probably get to 30% statewide and in most counties. But
right, we 30%. Saw that in Shasta too. Actually, that the turnout was like sub 30%. It appeared.
Yeah, it's a business. It's still that at that point in the count. I think by the time everything's counted, it'll probably be around 30%. But that's just god awful. That's as bad as it's been in years. And it leads to a more partisan electorate, especially in a primary where there's really, it really becomes more about that party than anything else. And independents tend to wait it out until November and say, "Oh, I'll just figure it out. I'll see who's in the runoff, or I'll see what's on the ballot then." But what that leads to is a lot of older, whiter voters determining who's in those runoffs, right, and who gets elected. And in the case, we're going to hear about it more later. One last thing I want to point out before we move on is the county central committees. These are, every party has them, but they're the governing board basically for the county Democratic parties. They have a lot of power. They control endorsements for the party. So the party's stamp of approval, right, on candidates and causes. They control money, donations, where that money gets spent. And in San Francisco politics, you're talking about a lot of money and a lot of interested parties, a lot of stakeholders, and you see really competitive races for these seats on the governing board of the Democratic Party. Well, because the only time we have a specifically partisan ballot anymore, where only Democrats, get a ballot for Democrats. The only time that those folks can get elected is every 4 years in this primary. Well, what we've just created now is this situation where, in order to have an earlier influence in the presidential primary, now we subjugate ourselves to a smaller electorate, a more conservative electorate, a more moderate electorate with Democrats selecting who's going to represent the parties, right? So you're going to have more moderates in San Francisco Central Committee. You're going to have more middle of the road folks because that's the folks who were voting. So of course they won. The mod groups won more seats, right? But that's it's a lesser known entity. It's a lesser known elected office that more people should know about, because if you're in a political party, you vote. You have an opportunity to vote on your central committee members every 4 years. So that's what happened last Tuesday.
I just always vote for the teachers.
Yeah, of course. You should, as well. You should. Teachers and firefighters and Marines. These are responsible people. But I will point out that I'm really grateful. The good wife was reelected to her position in the local Democratic Central Committee. Very handily, in fact. She's in very good shape, so no need to worry about being overcome by others in the race. So good on her. I ended up knocking about 500 doors for her myself. So field does help. Anyway, we can move on. But
I wanted real fun just about central committees. In Maricopa County, we're watching the Republican Central Committee air their dirty laundry at every Board of Supervisors meeting in Maricopa County. It is so funny. It is great. So funny. Oh, they're so all of them. They're so mad.
Oh, that's great.
It's so funny because I don't understand like what's going on. Apparently the Board of Supervisors has some oversight in some way over the central committees there. I don't understand it, but it doesn't seem like county business. Like it doesn't seem like something that the Board of Supervisors meeting should be like that. A third of public comment should not be about the Republican Central Committee in Phoenix, Arizona, right?
I mean, they might in most counties. This isn't true of the Democratic Party in California because they have their heads up their ass. But regardless, these are actually governed by state election law. And in most counties, you're elected by your supervisorial district, right, or your county supervisor district, because that's those are the districts that are fully incorporated or inclusive in the county, right? Whereas here in Santa Clara County, the Democratic Party elects by assembly district, and some of the assembly districts overlap multiple counties, so it gets really confusing in terms of who's eligible and how many representatives each district should get. So anyway, that there could be something that the county elections officials have to do with the ballot, right, and how it's organized, and right, and what candidates are allowed to do in terms of like a ballot statement, things like that. So there could be some issues that the county board of supervisors would oversee. I could see that. And the Republican Party generally organizes by supervisorial district. So
I just think it's incredible how petty it all is. Actually, if I'm not,
yes,
they're tattling essentially. They're going up there to tattletale on each other. It's pretty funny.
They're calling the man. They're calling the manager. on each other. Anyway, but so that's just a lesser known part of the ballot that you might have experienced if you're a partisan voter last week in California's election. So it's something to be aware of. So every 4 years, you have that opportunity to elect people to represent you within your party if you are a party member. But that's a shrinking group. Remember, Decline to State in California is the fastest growing political party.
Well, we're going to move on to winners and losers, where there are no winners unless there's somebody who you're rooting for, and then they probably lose.
Exactly.
So we got, we're going to come down to San Jose, or I used to live in San Jose, but we're still coming down the same general direction from San Francisco. And this is a problem. There's a housing project that not great. We'll let the local news tell you about it.
This 3-story modular housing project on Branham Lane was supposed to open in April, but now because of delays, it won't open until the summer. It's the latest move to address one of the Bay Area's most persistent problems. Once completed, this housing project will have 204 rooms with private bathrooms and kitchens and will be the largest homeless temporary housing site in San Jose. But as first reported by San Jose Spotlight, a trade union investigator says he discovered this mold in one of the modular buildings. He also claims the workers were not paid a prevailing wage.
I followed up my investigation, and based on that, I found there was various code issues. There was mold on the project, and of course, the workers were getting cheated out of their fair wages. So they were committing wage theft.
DEFCON is the general contractor for the project. Company
How would you call your company
Gary Filizzetti flatly denies any wage theft, saying workers will be paid properly, and DEFCON is working to remove the mold. Subcontractor VBC assembled the modular units at its factory in Tracy. In a statement, company CEO Vaughn Buckley says all workers on site are being paid prevailing wage rates in accordance with the crafts they work.
Pass the buck, literally.
He also says all modules were delivered to the
maybe
site
don't pass it.
free of water intrusion.
Keep the buck.
The company also says the mold discovered was in a laundry center, not a housing unit, and has been removed. The $70 million project was paid for largely by the state, but includes $10 million in funding from San Jose. We reached out to Mayor Matt Mahan, who issued a statement saying, I expect our code enforcement department will ensure that all units in this new quick build project are safe, clean, and dignified. He also said the city structures development contracts on public projects to ensure workers are paid the appropriate wage for the tasks they do. So if workers are owed money, the dollars are there to make it right. But Velarde still has concerns.
They're bringing them in from the valley, paying them half the wages, and it's just unconscionable.
Once this housing project is completed, it's expected to house 612 people. In San Jose, Marianne Favreau, NBC Bay Area News.
Wait. I thought there were 204 rooms whatever.
Yeah, there's some of them are set up for families or for multiple.
Oh, gotcha.
Multiple living. Yeah, they're usually what you'll see in these situations is a variety of units. So studios for one person, right? Bedroom, 2 bedrooms, sometimes even a 3-bedroom, depending on the size for families. They're trying, and there's a real emphasis on getting families off the streets. So,
does it have fiber? Is there fiber? Can I go live there? But I like the Pergo flooring would make my show sound pretty bad, but do they have fiber?
In theory, they've got a lot of these wraparound services like wireless internet, all the things that someone would need to get their life back on track, quote unquote, right? And access to internet and high-speed internet is probably tantamount for job searching, upskilling, finding opportunities for food assistance and medical assistance and all these other things. You need the internet.
Streaming on Twitch.
Wi-Fi. Streaming on Twitch, getting your podcast and your uploaded the next day, and making sure that your website doesn't crash when everyone's buying your merch. That's really important. So anyway, I'm sure there's those kind of amenities. And to be honest, I don't know how much of this is just the labor unions who do not like Mayor Mahan. Not that we do either. So we're kind of on the same side there. They don't like Mayor Mahan, and they're just trying to attack anything he does. So hopefully this isn't them getting in the way of a project that could get off the ground sooner. And these are legitimate complaints, and it looks like legitimate mold to me. I think, and we'll see about the workers' wage theft complaints. But the line about, well, if the money is there, we budget for the prevailing wage, so the money's there to make them right. And it's like the mayor acts as though that money's at the city, right? That the city can just cut the check and make these people whole. No, more than likely the money's gone to the developer, right? And they have decided to pay out less money to these people than they were supposed to and kept the rest. So now you're going to have to get the money from them to these workers, right? And that's going to take force of some sort. So it belies the point that it's not just the city's decision to say, oh, we'll make these people whole again. It's like you're going to have to get DevCon. I agree. Very, very bold name. Although I will point out one of the most prolific developers in the South Bay or in the Bay Area. They do the Googleplexes up in Mountain View. They do all the big stuff. The Niner Stadium, I think, was one of their projects. So,
hopefully they get rid of the mold. Just they were like, oh, we were pointing out the molds in the laundry room. It's like, well, that's great. Mold has a way of just staying put. Actually, that's like how that's how organisms work. Actually, they stay put and don't. There's no incentive by Mother Nature on any organism to proliferate itself. So great, it was just
not at all
in the laundry area.
It'll just stay there. It won't, the spores won't get into the ventilation and go everywhere else in the facility. No. Anyone who's had mold in their house knows how dangerous that is. Like we found some here in the house not long after the bad baby was born, and that freaked the living shit out of us because we thought, oh shit, what are we inhaling? What is the baby inhaling? Let's get out of here. So any news like that is bad news. And if you pile that onto another wage theft issue in San Jose with a subcontractor of a subcontractor, it's getting pretty disgusting. And there's going to be less and less reliable contractors out there who have not had this problem. So multiple levels of concern about this project. And the mayor, sort of brushing it off is just not very helpful.
Speaking of wage theft, the next story is about Taco Bell. I don't have any.
Well, hey, they got to start paying people $20 an hour. So
I don't have any direct stories about them. I just assume that one of their strategies is wage theft. What I notice here, I don't usually bring up the still, but what I notice here on the still frame is the like dining room closed, but it looks like they're advertising a new taco. Like,
in the ad itself, in the dining room closed. Yeah, it could be just mixed messaging, I guess.
Yeah, it just looks. Also, it looks like it's like, we have an enchilada or whatever.
Maybe this was like maybe this is a stock photo from the pandemic, right? And the dining room was closed, right? But they were still selling through the drive-thru.
Anyway, let's see what Taco Bell has to say about safety in Oakland.
Probably not good things.
Another major chain making changes to how it does business in Oakland, and it is because of safety concerns. Taco Bell now closing its dining rooms at 2 of its locations. NBC Bay Area's Valina Jones has more.
Long drive-through lines and closed dining rooms at 2 Oakland Taco Bell locations are slowing things down for this fast food chain.
I think it's kind of sad. I mean, people who actually want to sit down and dine can't because they're in risk of maybe getting their car broken into.
Both the 35th Avenue and Hagenberger locations are now closed to walk-ins. The chain says the move was made by the franchise owner to address growing safety concerns. The closure is leaving customers without cars and a curious position.
I was pretty much at their mercy, you know what I'm saying? So we're going to see if they served me, they did.
Walking through the drive-thru in hopes of getting food.
All she said was that they were closed. And so I went to my house, and my friend goes, you can go through the window. So I took a chance and they worked.
In a statement, Taco Bell says the franchise owner is working on safety by closing dining rooms, hiring security guards, and meeting with local law enforcement. Councilmember Janani Ramachandran represents the Laurel District, where one of the restaurants is located, and is working to address an increase in crime the area has seen in the last year.
And I want to see every business, small, medium, large, really be able to thrive. So we are working very cohesively with OPD to see how we can increase OPD presence in the area.
Ramachandran is also advocating for safety ambassadors for the area, but believes other factors contributing to the dining room closure could be at play.
we have award-winning restaurants within a block of that Taco Bell. So, I see this as potentially a sign that there's a lot more competition.
But for the Taco Bell near the Oakland airport, the change is adding to the growing list of nearby restaurants making the same move in the name of safety. Last year, Raising Cane's closed its dining room too. Denny's on Hagenberger served their last meal in January, and In-N-Out's only Oakland location is closing their doors at the end of March. It's a trend customers hope will stop before more businesses leave.
I'm afraid that this area is just going to start shutting down altogether.
In Oakland, Valina Jones, NBC Bay Area News.
So that Taco Bell in the Laurel District, that's going to be very upsetting to the patrons of 3411 Lounge, because not only was there a dining room there, but also it was open pretty late. I remember walking in there, probably being part of the problem. But they mentioned award-winning restaurants. There's a fucking tapas place there that is just killer. And I don't know, the Laurel District is kind of a nice part of Oakland. It's not like new and gentrified, but it's like a desirable place for people to live in Oakland, because it's like BART accessible, but it's not like downtown, and it's not super dense. So I'm thinking that one, they just wanted to cut staff.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything, really. They could be using the security issues as an excuse, like we've seen in other places, I think, and we've heard sort of in the wind, right, that a lot of these businesses are just suffering because, in general, right, retail and or in-person business is in decline because of in the restaurant industry, it's because of DoorDash and other delivery services, right? Grubhub. It's just becoming much more easier and more desirable for a lot of folks to just stay home and eat at home and have stuff brought to them. And so dining rooms, are going to be shutting down. I laugh only because I'm trying to not go down the rabbit hole of, talking about Taco Bell, and should we actually refer to this as dining? Are we elevating it too much? I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. We should not. Okay, I just did. But anyway, we shouldn't go down that rabbit hole. But I think that's why you're seeing more of these closures more than anything else. I think you're right. But it's very easy in a city like Oakland to use that as an excuse, the crime as an excuse. And it's just sad because these are real people's lives and jobs that are at stake. And it's real people's need to have a 7-layer burrito at 2 a.m. That are really on the line here. Do they still sell the 7-layer burrito, or is it all just like
that? I don't know. I don't really.
Nacho-ritos.
Not really a Taco Bell guy. I mean,
nor am I.
I mean, I like it. Like, if there's a Taco Bell across the street from a McDonald's and I'm walking down the street and I'm hungry, you better bet that Taco Bell's getting my money and not the fucking McDonald's. But like, we're pretty low on the list of like kind of convenient places to eat for me at this point. Chat just informed us that they actually removed 2 of the layers due to shrinkflation. It's now a 5-layer burrito. You can't get any lettuce or
no more guac
anymore on it.
Out. Yeah, the guac is out. Sorry, and the lettuce, too expensive to grow lettuce these days. Tragedy, absolute tragedy. Yeah, I figured it was. Right now they're going for all those mashups, right, and alliterative shit like the Nacho-rito or the queso taco or something. I don't know, the queso torta. But anyway, hopefully Taco Bell will find a way to keep providing good late night grub to people who need it and who aren't that picky. But for me, it's not going to affect my eating habits too much. I'm still close enough to Taco Bravo that if I really need like low rent tacos, I'm all over that. Like with Taco Tuesday, Tostada Tuesday, and then Taco Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, I used to live just around the way from that Taco Bravo. Yeah,
no, it's so sad.
I mean, like whatever, like in like where I live now, there's all kind of like low cost, kind of quick, convenient food options and more variety too, because all the little Indian joints around here. Though I've been cooking a lot lately because the kitchen here is gorgeous.
Nice. Well, remind me to tell you about a really kick-ass burger joint that opened up near you. Offline, we can do that later. Maybe I'll come and have one with you.
So up next, we're going to kind of stay in Oakland, and apparently everybody in Oakland has turned into a libertarian. We're going to go ahead and check out this next story.
Tonight, some Oakland business owners demanding more action from the city to put an end to violent crime.
KTVU's Amber Lee live now in Oakland. And Amber, the owners say they may stop paying taxes until the city steps in to help.
Well, good luck with that.
That's right, Julie. Merchants tell me they're frustrated and needed to take action. One restaurant owner from the Diamond District is leading the charge. Workers at Cybel's Pizza in Oakland's Diamond District say it's anything but business as usual.
We're scared of our lives now. Diamond District's not the same as back in the years that I had been working.
Surveillance video shows manager Nestor Sanchez stopping a man from reaching over the counter to grab the cash register. Sanchez fights back by pulling out a hammer. He says he was prepared since this was the second time someone came in to rob the business. Sanchez says in January, the restaurant was burglarized twice and robbed twice.
We're really struggling. Sales have dropped 20%.
Enough is enough. We frustrated. So we're not going to pay
that place is good.
To the city until they give us what we want.
Jose Ortiz owns La Perla restaurant on the same block. He started what he hopes will be a citywide movement where business owners stop paying taxes to Oakland until they receive services, which includes police patrols and cleaner streets.
Hire a tax lawyer that he gonna be leading this group in case that the city want to come.
Oh, so you're getting grifted.
The owner of Diamond Cafe shared this surveillance video. One of 4 times he says his restaurant was burglarized. He joined Ortiz's movement.
I feel like we need to start somewhere. I mean, it's ridiculous. It seems like it's getting worse.
Mayor Shang Tao issued a written statement which says in part, since the summer of 2023, Oakland's business districts have experienced a reduction in most property crimes. Government at all levels is working for Oaklanders, and I won't stop until every Oaklander feels safe in our city.
We have an emergency in the city of Oakland.
City Council member Noel Gallo represents the Fruitvale District. He says he plans to work with the city administrator, county and state officials to see what funds are available to help small businesses.
We need to keep every small business in place. We may need to make some adjustment financially.
The manager at Cybel says the owner is considering whether to join the tax protest.
I'm not really sure if that's going to work, but I really want security.
City Council member Janani Ramachandran represents the Diamond District. She tells me she's fighting for funding to provide community safety ambassadors and to form a business improvement district. Ortiz says there may be a meeting with the merchants and city leaders at the end of the month. Julie, Mike.
Amber Lee, live tonight in Oakland. Amber, thank you.
So the restaurant business is notoriously difficult. Whether you're established or just starting out, if you're running a restaurant or any kind of place that's like selling food, you are one of the most likely business owners to not be in business next year.
Yes, very true. It's got the lowest profit margins. It's got the most demand and most stress on the operators. So yeah, they don't last very long. I mean, most restaurants fold within months, if not a couple years. And it's very few and far between that they make it for the long haul. So it's unfortunate that they're suffering in this way. I don't think, nor do I know, that stopping paying their city taxes is going to solve anything. And in fact, it could make things worse, not because the city would retaliate in any way like they could, but more just that the city won't have the money to provide the services that they want. Right? It's like I don't think that any city, especially Oakland, is shorting the bill when it comes to public safety. I'm sure they're spending as much as they possibly can to try to put more quote unquote boots on the ground, right, and to invest in more police and more tools for keeping the people safe, or at least keeping people feeling like they're safe. So I don't doubt that they're spending as much as they possibly can without compromising other needs that they need to provide for. So this is really just, a lot of hot air, unfortunately, expended over something that the city really can't do much more about, right? And I'm not saying that there's no other. I don't have any other solution for these folks. I don't have any other way for them to turn other than to, reach out to their community and engage with other business owners and try to just, if you're worried about crime in your community going down a doom loop, stop the loop. Reach out and connect with people and try to figure out what's going on. If you're really concerned, right? To me, a lot of this just seems like city shit, right? This is city shit. This is what you deal with in a city, especially with revenue just not being there to provide more services, not police and public safety services, but also social services too, right? That help provide better for the community, so you don't see rampant property and crimes of convenience, right? So anyway, there are broader things at play here, and no matter how many local businesses band together, not paying your business taxes isn't going to solve anything. I know it sucks, but we all do it if you have a business.
And like, one of the interesting things, it's unfortunate, I guess, for the business owners, one of the interesting things about like a neighborhood is that there's some churn in the restaurants. So now there's like new restaurants, they could be different kinds of restaurants. That's just one of the interesting things about living in like a kind of neighborhoody place. I know, again, It sucks for the people whose restaurant goes out of business. Like, I'm not saying that they deserve it or whatever, but like the little bit of churn is probably actually good for the community and good for the city.
Competition, it's capitalism. It is what it is. And yeah, it's the market drives just about anything anyway. Like, if you're not providing a service that people are interested in a space that people are amenable to and want to come to, right? And you're not offering value to them that they can't get at home, why would they come out, right? That's why are movie theaters declining? Because you can build a movie theater in your house now for not a whole lot of money, even too, right? People have elaborate movie theaters in their houses, and they're not spending a whole lot of money. They're not going out to the movies anymore.
Like, I accidentally have one in my bedroom because I just had an appropriately sized TV for the large living room I used to have, and the shrinkflation and all being what it is.
Yeah,
like now,
exactly, right. We don't need our news from the newspaper anymore when we can get it from Echoplex Media. We don't on Twitch. We don't need to go to the fancy sit-down restaurant or even to the Taco Bell dining room, quote unquote. I did it again. When we can have DoorDash deliver our 5-layer burrito to our door, and we can have that in the comfort of our own home, watching a movie in our movie theater in our house. Right. While listening to a podcast.
I also wonder, like, in that area where the Taco Bells are closing their dining or whatever, like, what's up with the local taqueria? Is the local taqueria maybe picking up more business because people are
hopefully
maybe just after the pandemic, people are maybe thinking more local anyway, and so maybe, and like the guy with like that pizza by the slice joint, dude, there's like a ton of pizza by the slice joints, and usually they're not that great. Like.
Yeah, I mean, most of these small mom and pop places have obviously been hit really hard by the pandemic. A lot of them closed down already, right? So there are less and less of those options out there too. So this is just another hole for the community to have to fill somehow.
Well, we're going to move on to get your shit together, and in this case, it is quite literal.
Speaking of filling holes,
there is a $1.7 million toilet being installed in No Valley in San Francisco.
Woohoo!
And I like that it's red and black. It's clearly an anti-fascist toilet.
Contested and debated public toilet in San Francisco's Noe Valley neighborhood has been installed. This is video of it arriving at Noe Valley's town square. It's a prefabricated unit with a project cost of about $1.7 million. The Recreation and Parks Department says final touches are underway and it will be fully functional by the end of March.
All right.
Yeah, let's get pooping. $1.7 million. That's one expensive pooper.
Well, it's a building.
People are complaining. People are complaining about the cost of building affordable housing and saying, $900,000 a unit. That's insane. $1.7 million for a pooper. Oh my God. There's got to be a better way. I mean, we're all for, here at Echoplex Media, we are all for public toilets. All in. We're all in, right? For people to be able to poop in public, but with a door between them and the public. So this is great, but $1.7 million is way too much money to be paying for a public toilet. Can we reduce that a little bit?
I wonder how much of it is the people in Noe Valley. If people don't know about San Francisco, it's kind of an upscale sort of place. So maybe they wanted to make sure that it looked a certain way. Yeah, pinky's up.
Like the pinky. I'm trying to do the pinky thing. Yeah, I forgot which finger do you put up? It's the pinky.
Well, you look like you're smoking a joint.
But I know. I'm like drinking tea. I'm sipping tea, bitch.
But it's like I think that there was probably a lot of issues just around the way that it looked and whatnot. Yeah. Plus, it just went way over like the time frame, and so they were paying consultants all that time. I don't know. Just drop the ugliest fucking things in the world. I don't know. Just put them everywhere. Like, when you're just buying these things one at a time, you're just going to end up paying more for it. Like, you know, if you go to the store, you buy a potato, it's going to cost more than if you buy the bag of potatoes. I mean,
well, I look at it like this. Like, look at a porta potty, right? Okay, so we don't want a porta potty. Let's agree. The Noe Valley is probably not going to go for a porta potty in their park, permanent porta potty. Okay, let's go up one. Can we go up one level from the porta potty, right? Like, not plastic, but like siding, aluminum siding. But it doesn't have to be paradise. It doesn't have to be an ADU.
It doesn't have to be cute.
It doesn't have to be cute even, right? It just has to be functional. So please, for the love of God, can we do more of this and make it cheaper? That'd be great. And then we'd all get our shit together. We could all shit together. Yeah,
because like in like a lot of cities, like if you want to go take a piss, the only place you can really go is the bar.
Exactly. And the bars are less and less going to be likely to, or less and less likely these days to let anyone come in and piss, right? Unless it's off hours. They don't want certain clientele getting in the way of their own clientele.
Right.
And one thing I did, I wanted to bring up here that I didn't mention previously was that NIMBYism, right? In regards to the San Jose, development with the mold, right? It's one more delay on that project. That project was delayed. The mayor can complain all he wants about, we're delaying this project. You're delaying this project that's going to help hundreds of people. This project was delayed, and so many projects are delayed. The pooper was probably delayed because of neighborhood opposition, because of people saying, I don't want this in my neighborhood, right? I don't want to have transitional housing. Like homeless housing, what a fucking misnomer, right? What a fucking oxymoron. I don't want to have this homeless housing in my neighborhood, right? I don't want to have this porta potty, or I don't want to have this public toilet in my neighborhood because of what it might bring with it, right? The whatever accoutrement and people and crimes, as they think it might bring with it, right? It's all just that's what leads to delays. That's what leads to more money being spent. That's what leads to $1.7 million toilets. Is neighborhood opposition, and people just not being comfortable or with things in their coming to their neighborhood, but also wanting to have a say in every little fucking thing. Like, we're not a representative democracy, right? Like, this is Athens or something, and they can all vote on every single fucking issue. That's what's at play there. That's why it's $1.7 million for a toilet, because it took 5 fucking years to get this toilet built.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway.
Last week I tried to cover the primary election, and I was live for a few hours, but boy, did it get boring.
It does, because there's the way that the vote works nowadays, as we segue into Down Ballot Watch, for those of you who are in California here at least, as you know, we're 100% vote by mail now, right? Every single person in California by law gets sent a ballot at their place of registration, right? Home, more than likely, and they can fill it out, put it in an envelope, sign it, and mail it back in without having to pay postage, without even having to leave the house. You can just leave it out for your mail person. So what that leads to is hopefully more participation, although it didn't fucking happen this time around. So obviously there's a motivation factor that's even more important than access. But what it also leads to is just a longer time counting votes, right? Because so many more votes come in the mail, and it's not just automated and electronic, and you actually have to count them and run them through a system. Anyway. So that's why it takes forever. So yeah, you're going to get one big tranche of votes at like 8 o'clock, right, when the polls close, and then you're waiting like 2 or 3 hours for the next batch, and sitting around like, well, this is the same race and the news is great. You've watched the news, and they're like, the local news trying to cover this is hilarious. Like, well, we just talked about this one race 5 minutes ago. How's it going? Well, it's the same, and we just talked to the same people at the same party, and
I now feel their pain.
Right. They ran out of nachos, so they've brought out the tres leches cake. The party is progressing and people are still hanging out, but we have no more updates for you on like actual results. Anyway, so we're going to hear more about San Francisco's move to the middle, maybe, at least in this election, in this next hit, and then we'll learn more about the other primary races as we go through Down Ballot Watch.
So the decisive results were a victory not just for the mayor, but also for a more moderate agenda. Wilson Walker has more on what the election says about the current political pulse of the city.
I think there's a good chance we see a couple changes. Hopefully Prop A can hold on. And I think the DCCC candidates, 80, 17, and 19, probably have a little bit of mixing in the middle of the pack. So
even with some changes, it was a big night for Stephen Buss, director of Grow SF, and one of the architects of a string of victories for San Francisco's moderate Democrats.
I actually don't feel like it was us that influenced the election. It was the voters, and it was us responding to the voters.
This set of victories, however, hardly the beginning of something for the city's moderates. This is now a pattern going on 2 years.
November 2020, we basically lost everything. And then we got the school board recall. We got the Chesa Boudin recall. We've got Joe Engardio and Matt Dorsey and Brooke Jenkins. And now we've got the Democratic Party, and we've got Prop E and F.
And whether you're the school board, the DA, the Democratic Party members, they're throwing you out. And so the question is, will the mayor and the supervisors be next?
So what can the March vote tell us about November? We ran into Assemblymember Matt Haney at City Hall, and the former supervisor offered a candid take on the election's implications, starting with the mayor's office.
With all respect to my friend, Asha, he really went in on Prop B, and that got crushed. Aaron, if Aaron, I don't know what Aaron Peskin's narrative is now if he gets in the race.
Last night's vote also has implications for the board.
Now you have a Democratic Party that's controlled by the moderate faction that are going to endorse all the more moderate candidates in November, which means likely some trouble for Connie, some trouble for Dean.
The lesson that I learned from last night and carry with me well into November is that the grassroots campaign must mobilize.
Supervisor Connie Chan, a progressive up for re-election in District 1, pointed to low turnout. She also tied the results and the city's shifting politics to national political trends.
I am saying that they're political opportunists, that they are taking that trend and that they are seeing that political wind, and they are grabbing onto it and turn that into something else in San Francisco.
Does your group plan to endorse somebody for the mayor?
We will definitely make endorsements for mayor, but we're going to wait until after the filing deadlines.
That filing deadline is in June, so still plenty of time for everyone to let the results shake out and digest them. But it's clear, if you look back over the last year, that the trend, the course, appears to be set here in San Francisco as the city approaches a very high-stakes election in November.
Okay, so talking about the trend and then talking about a year is fucking stupid.
Yeah, exactly, precisely. You have to look over the long term in politics, especially, and calling any 1 year a trend or one election a trend, especially an election like this, where it's just such low turnout, low engagement, or the recall of Chesa and the other races they were talking about and touting, and the Central Committee races, right? It's you can't point to it as the barometers of where the political winds are in the city. However, you can absolutely point to it and say, well, these are the folks that got elected, right? These are the people that are now running shit, right? So no matter what the electorate looked like, or how we think the city or San Francisco or the Bay Area or Silicon Valley, whatever you want to call it, California behaves politically on the whole, how they feel and how they behave are two different things, right? So I think San Francisco is just as wacky and progressive and liberal and nutty as everyone else thinks it is, and it always sort of has been. It's just, it comes and goes and it ebbs and flows. And if less people participate in elections, those people, determine who wins and who sets policy, right? And whoever sets policy can determine who wins elections, right? And it's a perpetuating cycle. So there is a threat, right? It's not a trend after one election, but there's a threat that the people that get elected by these mini trends, right, have larger influence. And you're seeing that, I think you're going to see that, honestly, if you want to talk about national politics, look at how much 4 years of Orange Man, how much havoc that has created for many, many decades to come in terms of Supreme Court, in terms of policy in America. No matter what we are, who we think we are, right? This country is probably more moderate left, right, than right, at least according to the votes, right, overall. But that's not how it's playing out, because elections matter. So fucking more people should vote in primaries. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's it's going to be this general election is going to be crazy in several ways on local levels, but on the national level, it's going to be fucking crazy. And I think we're actually, even though people don't like the two people at the top of the ticket, I think people hate the other person at the top of the ticket so much that it's going to drive like turnout. And we're going to see how that like impacts local elections, particularly in places like San Francisco or San Jose. It'll be interesting to watch.
It's interesting. It'll be interesting to watch this year. Historically, it doesn't, which is odd. It draws more people out to vote. These national issues and national campaigns obviously do, but they don't necessarily vote on those lower down ballot, quote unquote, issues and races. More people do vote in them, but there's also a larger percentage of people that don't vote at all in those, but they vote for, they vote for president, right? But they don't vote for anything else. So yet to be seen, but that also is a significant factor in a lot of these local races, right? The people that undervote, the people that don't vote at all, and why they're not motivated to vote in local races as opposed to, national races is a conundrum that we can hopefully address and look into here on Down Ballot. That's sort of where
we're going to move on to California State Proposition 1. The state electorate was split on it, as was I. I was like, I don't know about this.
I don't know how you ended up voting, but this is going to be a real nail biter for Gavin's big ticket issue this year. He wasn't running for president. This is his baby, and if it goes down, that's not very good news for his political aspirations. I mean, you can always recover from something like this, but still. It wasn't his name on the ballot, but still. So anyway, we're going to learn more about how it's doing.
Here's our other focus. The only measure that the entire state voted on is Prop 1, and it would authorize more than $6 billion in general obligation bonds to build mental health facilities and to cover substance addiction treatment. So it is pretty much a dead heat right now. And it's interesting because Governor Newsom has really been a proponent for this, pushing this plan. It's part of his vision to fix homelessness in the state. It would provide billions of dollars for different things, supportive housing, veterans, and mental health jobs. And this is the interesting part I think a lot of people are conflicted about. It would impose new requirements on how counties report and spend money on mental health programs. It would also help to build more mental health facilities, and supporters of that think that would help with the housing crisis. We know that a lot of businesses are facing a lot of issues with people who are experiencing homelessness. But some opponents say it's just too expensive and that it would take money away from other programs that really need it. And I think what's interesting is when this first started and the governor was talking about Prop 1, the polls showed that people were really for this. And now we see it's essentially tied, 50-50.
Yeah, this is way closer than I expected this to be.
Yeah.
And
it couldn't get closer, friend.
Down
not much.
Where this had support in the state and where it didn't. And I find that fascinating.
Yes.
And it is very clear. The biggest cities in California overwhelmingly voted for Prop 1. San Francisco was something like 70% in favor of this. But then it's like, flip it if you go to, let's say, Redding.
Oh, Redding, you say.
Or even if you go to, say, San Diego, which has traditionally been more Republican leaning, right?
Yeah.
So where there are where it's top of mind, homelessness, mental health care, where this has been an ongoing issue, it seems like voters have decided, I want this. And where it might just be seen as a city issue. If you live outside of the major cities of California, like, I'm not paying for that.
Yeah.
So super interesting to see how that broke down.
I know.
It does. Also, it's interesting because
it's a very weird hit.
For healthcare.
Yeah, this is like not very good broadcasting.
Are these guys high?
For veterans and people on the streets.
For the first day.
I would assume that health departments and people who are in this business already would support it, but that is not necessarily the case because it would take power away from those who currently make decisions.
Yeah,
on the local level.
To the state level.
Right.
And I think some people are concerned about, what that might mean. There is a concern that it would be, focused on people who are having the most severe, mental issues that we often see, unfortunately, in our streets. Whereas some people think spending local money prevents people from even getting to that point. So there is, I think, just a different idea about the best way to tackle the problem itself and where to put the money to tackle the problem itself. So it's like, okay, you're taking the money away to, focus on people who are visibly in distress. What's happening to people who are maybe at earlier levels who are, what are we doing to prevent them from getting to that point?
Yeah, I think that when you look at like San Francisco, for example, who overwhelmingly supported this, and they also pass a lot of measures that are seen as more moderate and are seen as change making. Like, I don't like the way we're going, change it.
Yes.
That seems to be what is happening with voters who are supporting this. They want this to go in a different direction. So they're happy with the state to take control of otherwise local control.
Because they're like, this is what's been going on and this is where we are.
Yeah. So we'll be watching that closely because I'm sure the governor is also,
I know,
wondering where this is going.
What the fuck? Okay, so outside of the very odd nature and tone of that news hit, I want to
stoned.
I want to talk a little bit about why I was conflicted. Please. I ended up voting yes, but it was primarily because one of the organizations that was on the no side, I was like, oh, that's Citizens United. Okay, well there we go. I guess I got to make a decision, and I'm going to vote against the fucking Citizens United people.
A lot of times that's what it really comes down to when you feel like there's a lot more to it than is in the big print, right? The fine print has more. Sometimes it's just easier to look at who's supporting the thing and who's opposing it. That's why these days, we can't control PAC spending. We've already, Citizens United has pretty much nixed that. We can't control free speech, quote unquote, money is speech. But what we can do is expose and be transparent and disclose who are the big funders of these political ads, who paid for this mailer, who paid for that TV ad, right? And they have to disclose it and put it in their ads so that we can see it in black and white who did it, whether it's a random committee name or it's Chevron, Uber, PG&E, whatever, what have you, right? It's much easier to look at the supporters and the opposition to get a sense of where you might come down in it. And then sometimes you end up on a side with folks that you normally wouldn't necessarily come down, just simply because that's where you're at on that particular issue. And that's where I came down on this issue. We're going to cancel each other out. I voted no. I'm not happy with the way that the governor's approaching the issue. I'm not happy with the way with the conservatorship issues, right? Being able to, build more facilities, but then use them to basically apprehend people against their will and put them into.
That was my primary concern, was that one flew over the cuckoo's nest type scenario.
Yes, and it still exists, and just building more facilities isn't going to make anything different necessarily there. And I had some very serious concerns there, and the fact that they're taking money from one pot and putting it in another. This is not like a bond. It wasn't to create new money. It was to basically allocate funding. So, I was not alone. You were not alone. And as you said, it couldn't get any closer. And I think that update was from the day after the election. We are now 1 week removed from the election. They were still counting ballots. And can I report, producer Dave? Yes is winning by 4,000 votes. 4,218 votes.
We just say it's 4,200 votes. That's 10 times 420.
Yeah, there you go. 4,218 votes it's winning by, out of 6.3 million votes statewide.
Yeah,
4, and that's a nail biter by statewide standards.
I'm not surprised that you and I ended up voting differently on this, because I probably, just like me, you were like on the edge on this one, right? You didn't.
I could easily have gone yes. Yeah. I could have
gone no. I think it's the unfortunate history of mental health care in this country is particularly, Reagan shutting down all the fucking mental institutions was a disaster at the beginning. However, like the mental institutions that got shut down were horrible places that were basically prisons for people who had committed no crime.
Correct. And then once those were shut down, there really was nothing left, and there hasn't been a whole lot left for people with mental illness to help them through it. And those are the folks that are ending up on our streets. Those are the folks that are ending up requiring more and more social services that we provide through our tax dollars, right? So there's a notion that we could spend more wisely if we spend sooner. my own brother grew up with severe, mental and social challenges, and there wasn't enough provided for him, and he ended up, in prison because of stupid shit that he did because he was imbalanced and he didn't have enough support growing up. So even where we, in this beautiful affluent region, right, in our beautiful affluent neighborhood where we grew up, there were still issues like that. So this is something that's way too prevalent, and this is this is like a Band-Aid that's trying to address the issue. We really need more structural change to solve this.
Not for nothing, and thankfully the organization I'm going to bring up here is a shell of its former self due to the internet making fun of them. With no good and compassionate mental health services for people end up going to private organizations or religious organizations, or in some cases cults like Scientology, where they tell you that we are the modern mental health experts or whatever. And now because there's no compassionate or even less than compassionate services from the government, which is at least ostensibly in some way accountable to the people, now you have all these fucking vultures from the private sector, be they religious or non-religious, that are going to come in and probably basically, if your family has money, boy, are they happy to take it. And that's not really the way to do mental health either. So it's like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. I really felt you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't on Prop 1. I almost skipped it.
I'm sure some people did that too. So that's where we're at, though. 4,000 votes out of 6.3 million. So we will see how it turns out. They are still counting ballots statewide. At least in Santa Clara County alone, there's tens of thousands of ballots still to count. So anything's possible there. That could flip back and forth until the very end. So, but it only takes 50% plus one vote to win.
The other thing I clocked in this was a lie about San Diego, that it's Republican.
The city itself has it's shifted a lot. It's Democratic, but it's more moderate. The county is very much conservative. So once you get out of San Diego proper, like out of the heart of San Diego, it gets conservative very, very quickly. It behaves a lot more like Palm Springs,
right? Than
Los Angeles.
Right. I don't like that lie. That's like clocking LA as more conservative because it's right next to Orange County.
Right. It's very true. It's very true. And again, it's also changed a lot. It's become more progressive and more liberal. Anyway, speaking of changes, California will now, for the first time in almost 3 decades, or more than 3 decades, not be represented by 2 women in the Senate. In fact, we're going to have 2 sausages. So we're going to find out more about what that might portend or how that's come about in this next hit.
We begin today with the election and the race to fill the seat vacated by the late Dianne Feinstein.
With Steve Garvey and Adam Schiff's primary win, that means for the first time in almost 3 decades, California will not have a female senator in D.C. And that's not all. Some Bay Area congressional seats held by women have been lost to male candidates as well.
ABC 7 News reporter Ansel Hassan takes a closer look.
Former baseball star Steve Garvey, a Republican, and Democratic Representative Adam Schiff will compete in November to fill
Compete is a fun way to talk about that.
Senate seat from California, effectively ending the congressional careers of Barbara Lee and Katie Porter.
It's such a shame that we will not be having a female as our senator for the state of California. I think that having a women's perspective is really important.
Samina Usman is constituent campaign coordinator for Barbara Lee's Senate campaign. For the first time in more than 3 decades, California won't have a female senator. And of the Bay Area's 12 congressional districts, only 3 will be represented by women. Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco, Zoe Lofgren in the South Bay, and Latifah Simon, the likely replacement for Barbara Lee's 12th district in the East Bay if she wins in November.
It speaks to the issues that women face running in politics.
Dr. Samantha Francois is a professor of women's studies at Cal State East Bay. She suggests that lower voter turnout means fewer younger voters, who are often more likely to vote for minority candidates. She adds that female candidates still face a tough time fundraising.
Adam Schiff outraised both his female opponents in the Democratic Party, both Katie Porter and Barbara Lee, by like 2-1.
But Professor Francois also notes that Schiff got big endorsements from high-profile female politicians like Pelosi and Barbara Boxer, and that exit polls suggest that women voters supported Schiff in equal numbers to men.
I think we have to have a broader lens in terms of looking at local elections, city elections, and county elections. And we saw, obviously, Jackie Spear reelected to the Board of Supervisors.
We're still seeing that most Americans believe that voters are more likely to support a candidate if the candidate is a white man.
Dr. Sean Fletcher is a professor of public relations at San Jose State University. He says women candidates may face barriers, but that their parties need to do more to empower their female candidates.
I will put it on this system that is designed to select, to develop, and to ultimately promote these women candidates as viable for their positions.
In the East Bay, Ansar Hassan, ABC 7 News.
So I feel like Adam Schiff was going to win no matter what. It was just a matter of, was Katie Porter going to be able to pull enough votes to beat the Republican and then have a race versus him in the general, which did not happen.
Yeah, no, and that was partly because of just the way things played out, money and campaigns and whatnot. But there's also a big factor of, and this ruffled some feathers, Katie Porter being one of them, and she's having kind of a, unfortunately, sore loser moment. But Schiff actually elevating Garvey in the ads that we saw here on Downballot, and we showed by hyping him to all voters and saying, oh, he's a threat to democracy, where all the Republicans will say, oh shit, I got to go out and vote for Garvey, right? So he actually boosted Garvey's numbers probably to make sure that he was facing off against him in the runoff. That's pretty much a vacation for Adam Schiff. He doesn't have to run a campaign. It's over. Democrats are going to vote for him, and he's going to be the senator. So he won. Good on him. And yeah, it doesn't portend well necessarily at this level for female candidates. I will point out that that women are very close to achieving gender parity in the state legislature here in California. I think we're about 4 seats away, and could happen as early as this year, which is a little bit later than some expected or hoped, but it's happening, and it's all about building the pipeline, right? If there were more women that were encouraged to run and ready to run for these kind of seats, and set up to win these kind of seats, right? And given the support that they need to run for these kind of seats, then yeah, you'd see more women running and more women winning. And we'll see it in the next race we're going to talk about briefly before we go. But there's just a lack of women who are ready to and motivated to run. It's not just being qualified, right? There's so many qualified women out there. There's a bunch of qualified men, but there's plenty of qualified women out there. They just need to be encouraged to run, and they need to be given the support system to run. And yeah, Nancy Pelosi and Barbara Boxer endorsing Adam Schiff doesn't help anything, right? If you're really talking about trying to move that gender needle, it does not help anything that women don't support other women. It's never really been a problem for men, but we don't really think about it that much, right?
And the other thing that kind of sucks here is that Katie Porter is now no longer representing Orange County, and unfortunately, that House seat, Orange County's more blue, I think, than a lot of people would think of it as being, but Republican could still win that seat.
They could, yeah. Democrats have actually achieved registration majority there, which is great, but it's still about turnout. And yeah, that's a vulnerable district. And she was very popular within the party. So it'll be. I'm not sure who the which candidate emerged to replace her, or which candidates emerged in the runoff to replace her, but we'll see. Barbara Lee's seat is safe. More than likely, she'll be, as they mentioned, her anointed predecessor or her anointed successor, will be more than likely elected to take over. But as we're going to see in this next race, before we go, in the race to fill Anna Eshu's congressional seat, it's going to be a dick fest, no matter what.
Yep. Let's see what's going on here. Was this House 16? Is
House
that right?
16. House 16, one of the most hotly contested and expensive races in the House this year.
In the South Bay now, voters were asked to weigh in on key races that will shape politics in the South Bay and the peninsula for years. That includes the San Jose's mayor's race and the congressional seat. Let's start with the latest numbers on the race to fill Congresswoman Anna Eshoo's seat. This is District 16, from Pacifica down the peninsula into the Silicon Valley. The top 2 vote-getters advance to face off in the November general election. And look at this. Former San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo appears to have secured the top spot, with the battle, though, still looming for the second spot between County Supervisor Joe Simitian and Assemblymember Evan Lowe. Here's NBC's Ian Cole.
Today, counting continues at the Santa Clara County Registrar of Voters. While the initial results are in, officials say there are another 145,000 ballots left to be counted. One of the biggest and closest races is the one to replace retiring Congresswoman Anna Eshoo. With the top 2 moving on to November, former San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo is in the lead.
I want to see a campaign of ideas. I want to see a competition of ideas. And so that we can bring the best ideas forward, both to address homelessness and the many other challenges we all face in our communities, like the high cost of utilities.
Right behind him is County Supervisor Joe Simitian. His team believes his trajectory won't sway and he'll finish in the top 2, so he's looking on to November.
You know, in addition to representing 14 of the 15 cities in the district, which means I know their views, their values, their needs, I'm also the only experienced legislator in the race who has taken on big issues legislatively.
But earlier today, Assemblymember Evan Lowe was within 2,000 votes of Simitian and says he's hopeful he can close the gap, especially with so many votes left.
That older voters tend to turn on their ballots earlier. But given the low voter turnout, typically impacting younger voters, perhaps that we did the last minute blitz and encouraged them to go to the polls.
Also in the South Bay, San Jose voters decided Matt Mahan will serve another 4 years as mayor. He's been serving a 2-year term after voters decided in 2022 to move the mayor's race to align with presidential election years.
I'm feeling really grateful. You know, I'm appreciative for the community's overwhelming support. I am committed to working with our residents in every neighborhood to ensure that we're creating neighborhoods that are safer, that are cleaner, where we're getting people off of our streets and out of our creeks.
In the South Bay, Ian Cole, NBC Bay Area News.
We mentioned a lot of races still close.
So I couldn't vote in that, but obviously my choice was the same as yours. I wanted to see Evan Lowe pull it out.
Well, I have some good news to report, actually. So those numbers were from election night. So there was a pretty significant gap between second and third place between Joe Simitian and Evan Lowe in that race. I can report that Sam Liccardo is still far and away in the lead and more likely headed to the runoff. Evan Lowe is now trailing Joe Simitian by just 162 votes.
Oh, shit.
Out of hundreds of thousands that were cast, and they are still counting, and he has been trending upwards ever since election night. So just like he said, the trend is heading his way. So we will see what happens. They're reporting every day at 5 p.m. They report new updates. Or 7 p.m. or so, and they have to call from 2 different counties. But yeah, 162 votes now separating them. And the lone woman in the race out of 11 candidates finished 7th.
Oh, yikes.
So, yeah, the billionaire Peter Dixon, our tech bro, finished 4th so far. So, and distant 4th, by the way. So good on him. And Rishi Kumar, our good friend from Saratoga, who said he was top of the polls, finished 6th.
I think that billionaire, by the way, is a spy. Just so you
might be.
I think
he might be.
His CV reads like that of a spook.
Well, he ain't getting elected, so he'll have to go back to spying.
Well, that's because his inclination is discretion. So it's kind of hard to promote yourself when your job is maybe oftentimes not to exist at all.
Well, we'll know more next week as more votes continue to be counted about Prop 1, the CD16 race. Those are really tight. So, and we'll give you more updates then. But stay tuned to Downballot and stay tuned to the results online.
I'll say, I don't like Sam Liccardo. I think he's kind of smarmy, but the one thing I'll say about him is that's the only really positive thing I can say about Gavin Newsom is he's like a new style of Democrat where he is not afraid to talk the shit. And, the Democratic Party has been pretty feckless and too conciliatory, I would say, to their Republican opponents in a lot of ways. And I think that's like the only good thing. Well, not the only good things, obviously. There are probably other good things, but those are the things that I would immediately point out that I like about Liccardo. And very much he's in the model of Gavin Newsom in a lot of ways. So,
Well, there you go. I would agree. Anyway, but we'll have more on Down Ballot next week, so please stay tuned.
And we've got and another thing. What do we got for and another thing?
Music. Music is the universal language, and it makes everyone feel better. And now San Francisco is banking on it making people feel better about the doom loop. So here's something about busking.
Music filled the downtown San Francisco today, part of a new program aimed at helping revitalize the mid-market neighborhood. Now, organizers are hoping the live performances will breathe new life into the area that's faced challenges. Here's NBC Bay Area's Christy Smith.
In San Francisco today, the sounds of the city came with a new tune.
Whisker Man is the name of a band that we both play in.
Today, these two musicians were playing
they love IPA
along Market Street.
It's been going amazing. Yeah, a lot of people coming out. So many of my fondest memories are busking, and I think it's just really, they're like, when people aren't expecting music, you get this whole other joy out of them.
They're part of a launch of what's being called Busket today on the sidewalks along Market Street.
Busket celebrates bringing professional musicians to the sidewalks, to local businesses in Market Street to create joy and music for passerby and folks going to the cafe, the theater.
And it's happening in a neighborhood looking to try something new.
Busket is part of Market Street Arts, a vision for the mid-market neighborhood that really leans into the wonderful creative infrastructure we have here. And what I mean by that is on 3 blocks, 17,000 live performance seats, a fabric of community cultural organizations.
The new effort to revitalize the area kicked off today at 8 different locations.
Between 5th and 8th Streets on Market Street in San Francisco, we'll have about 25 musicians playing throughout the day. And following today, you can enjoy 40 more weeks of live music on Market Street.
The city has made investments to help transform the area around UN Plaza, which has faced challenges with homelessness and drugs. A few blocks away, there were some people enjoying the activation.
I think it's great that the city is investing in artists and bringing people out to enjoy the main spaces, and I happen to be fans of these bands.
The city has a history of being a trendsetter when it comes to arts and culture. We have the creative community raising their hand to say, I want to be part of the revitalization of downtown.
Christy Smith, NBC Bay Area News.
Oh man, just a bunch of fucking people playing guitars. God damn it. My people keep getting left out of this. Where is the fucking dance music? Where
Seriously.
is the I mean, they only showed a few artists or whatever, but like I guarantee you there was probably no like DJs or electronic music performers out there.
Where are the beats? I need the beats. I need the boogie. Let's get some boogie into this revitalization. Revitalize the boogie.
But I mean, it sounds fun. Like I'm not going to go to San Francisco for that. And also left out of that story is that like people busk without permission all the time, and those are those are like poor people who actually need the fucking money, and those are the working musicians that always were on Market Street. They didn't ask for permission, and they oftentimes got harassed by the fucking police. And I bet a lot of people that got harassed by the police weren't invited to come do it with the permission. I know, and another thing is supposed to be like a fun, nice story, but that shit, I hate that shit right there. I hate that. They're trying to gentrify street performing. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, not always has to be, and they were exactly right. That's why I put it on here. No, it's completely gentrified culture, and culture by paint by numbers. And it's belying the point of what a city really is, right? The fabric of a city is people who are in need, of musicians who are just doing it to get by, right? Being out there entertaining people, right? And making a living doing that, and not having to get a permit or be part of some sort of fucking grant program to do it, right? They're just out there, and you let them do it because that's what a good city does. It's what a good city encourages, right? And you don't have to have special programs like this with promoter dude there helping to curate whoever's there, right? And whatever bands he thinks or whatever musicians he thinks are appropriate. So yeah, let the community decide what they want to hear.
Counterpoint, Stealthy Fed agent in chat just said that the fabric of the city is actually the permits, which is of course what that person is obligated via their profession to say.
Well, you could make the fabric, you could weave it out of all the permits that have to be issued for all this shit. So it's just amazing how much bureaucracy, we try to lay over things that are just natural and organic and could just, behave in their own way. Anyway, another thing, not always happy-go-lucky. Sometimes it's something that didn't fit on winners and losers.
Hey, you want to close the show out for us?
100%. Thank you so much, Producer Dave, as always, for running the dials, and listener and viewer for joining us. We do this every Tuesday, except when we don't, right here on twitch.tv. And you can always download this wonderful show as a podcast. We are the 9th best local news podcast in California, according to some dude. Please remember to get vaccinated, wear a mask, pants are optional. This is Audible Smoke, and we hope you have a wonderful week. Stay tuned for public comment. Peace out.
Time to get the party started. Pick up my phone just to check and see who's calling. Dress up real nice for the ladies at the bar, and I'm driving in my car just to get to where they are. Here at the local scene is where I plant my feet. It's where I smoke my cigarette and I hold my drink. I look at all my friends, they're all blazing green. Here at the front of the stage waiting for MTV. Where are those guys who's standing next to me with a pipe in his hand ready to blaze for me? About 5 minutes later we're all singing Queen. Now get the fuck up on stage, man, like the scene, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. I turn and head back to the bar for a refill, man, because you know where we are. We're headed out to the car to smoke another one and another one. Now just when the magic starts kicking in, I hear relapse playing, you know it's time to head in. Alright everybody, now it's time to grab a new drink. Spark it if you got it and then pass it to me, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. Last up on the bill for the show tonight is Down and Dirty at 5, so we're headed outside to spark up another joint. Now who's got my lighter? Stoner E, of course, shouldn't you be inside? I'm all up in this bitch, being who I gotta be. I'm fucked up like the U.S. economy. The truth is that I don't think logically. Stoner E take you on a psychedelic odyssey. Now inside motherfuckers is rockin' me, and outside shit we smoke a lot of broccoli. Rocky the roller, yo, that sexy girl be jockin' me. Ain't too drunk to fuck, but I'll probably do it sloppily. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy the band, enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Molly say that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Well, Bob Marley said that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we